Hello, hello, hello. Hi. I am Rebecca. This is the Me and You podcast. Thank you for being with me today. I'm so excited to talk with you. I'm always so excited to talk with you. Some housekeeping things. As I said, this is the Me and You podcast. This is streamable everywhere and it's also on YouTube if you want to listen to it there. If you enjoy and what I'm saying resonates in your heart, please share it with someone you love. And if not, that is totally okay. It feels so weird being here alone because it feels like my last two forever episodes were with other people. And I'm actually going to have someone else on the pod next week. So this is a fun little chat between me and you again, which is so exciting. This is a conversation between me and you. As always, I love to hear your thoughts, kindly and compassionately said in other spaces like on YouTube comments or Instagram comments or TikTok comments. Always keeping it kind, always keeping it divine. I appreciate you for that. And without further ado, I want to talk about what it means to make space for all parts of yourself. What do I mean when I say that? What does that look like? And how do we do that? And why do we do that? So, the purpose of making space for all different parts of yourself is that my goal is to live my life without denial, shame, or fear. So I want to be so radically myself and so accepting of all parts of me that I'm not afraid to understand them, embody them, or even release them, you know? So shining the light of consciousness in a 360 view around your, almost like I imagine it like there's like a lighthouse in your head and it's just like shining light, like in a 360 view, and like all parts of you are seen and valued and understood as a necessary contributor to the whole. So I want to begin by reading a little bit of a journal entry from a couple years ago that I wrote about honoring all parts of myself and about how the path of return lays within the shadow. I don't know if lays is a word. The path of return lay within the shadow is what the journal entry is called. I'd love to start there and then kind of bridge out into other ideas. And as always, like I said, if this resonates with you, if you have more questions or anything like that, please like interact with me. DM me if you don't want to do it like online in front of other people. I'd love to chat with you guys. So I wrote this journal entry a long time ago. And it still feels so true today. As I said, it's called The Path of Return Lay Within the Shadow. And it goes something like this. A few days ago, I encountered the idea of honoring my dips as powerful moments of self-exploration, a way to know myself deeper. While my normal reaction to dips in my motivation and joy would be to scrutinize myself and to force myself to work despite my inevitable burnout, I decided this time that I would rest when sick, realizing that through witnessing how I feel rather than suppressing it, I can make space for more feelings to arise to the surface to eventually find release. Lying to myself only creates resistance, and that resistance only strengthens my relationship to the agitator. Through conscious witnessing, I remain the observer, a position that allows me to be involved with my life without being absorbed by it. To cherish myself for arriving at this moment, pausing to honor the present, trusting that with divine guidance, I am right where I'm supposed to be. No suppressing, no attaching. Consciously encouraging authentic expression, the path of return. So that's a little bit about how honoring the void keeps you connected to yourself. Sometimes I think that when we experience hard things, we want to leave our body. Maybe people engage in drinking, excessive socializing, binge watching, binge scrolling, doom scrolling, drugs. You know, there are so many things that we do to escape what's going on inside. But when we learn to have radical acceptance, we realize that fear is a necessary part of telling us who we are and what matters to us and what's going on. And I also want to share a couple other affirmations that I tend to read to myself on a regular basis. And I'm hoping that these can kind of lighten you if you're dealing with anything heavy. But one of them is, I am the sky and everything else is the weather. And my embodiment is medicine. Your embodiment is medicine. There's something that is healing about just being true to yourself. And I wrote that I vow to be teachable, to take everything around me as information. And once again, I live with all parts of myself without denial, shame, or fear. So, what does it mean to live with all parts of yourself? And what are the parts of yourself? The way that I see it is it's almost like, I think it's called, I feel like it's called a bubble map. I could be wrong, where it's like you have the circle. So that's self, right? In the center of the circle, self. And then you have all these bridges that kind of connect out of that. And it's like, I'll just use me as an example: dancer, singer, writer, artist, sister, daughter, friend, teacher, blah, 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 right? Like all these different things are kind of extensions of you, and they are parts of you that come together and are a part of the greater whole of you. So the reason why we want to honor all these parts is because I think that sometimes when we don't, they go into what a lot of people refer to as like the shadow part of you that like you neglect and avoid. And it's almost like a toddler that is like screaming up to be heard and you're ignoring it. So it like acts out as a way to get your attention. I would really describe it as that. And I've seen that within myself. And I want to, also share a kind of example of like when I felt like I really honored parts of myself. I feel like I honor parts of myself when I perform because I have this part of myself. So let's say she's an extension of the bubble map, right? And I know that there's probably a name for that and I like cannot think of it, but like the part of the bubble map that's like part of the whole part, Anyway, so when I perform, there is a part of me that doesn't come out in day-to-day life. Like she does come out sometimes when called, but like I don't know how to explain it without making it sound like disassociative, but it's not. It's like completely reflective of me. And she's a part of me that's more like extroverted. She makes direct eye contact with people when she's creating and performing. She embodies her sensuality. And by sensuality, I mean her senses. So she's very present with what she's feeling, what she's seeing, what she's hearing, all of that. And she is like exuberant is like a word I would use for her. And that is not who I am in its entirety. That's who I am when I perform, right? And I love performing because it's a chance to show a part of myself with the world and give a glimpse into the greater whole that lives inside and to connect with the greater whole that lives inside of other people, which is so meaningful. I also tell myself an affirmation every time before I record or perform in front of other people, where I say, my heart and my spirit shines through my throat chakra and it evokes the heart and spirit in others. And I feel that invisible connection happening when I create and perform in front of other people. And I know you're probably like, wait, what do you perform if you're new to the podcast? I love to perform poetry. I love to perform songs. I love to perform my dancing and yeah, stuff like that. I grew up in dance. So I was performing since the age of like 6 or 7, maybe. And it's a big part of my life. And I've been through a lot of challenges with that and crazy stage fright. That is like textbook singing and the voice cuts out, like just all the textbook things that can happen when you're performing and it goes so wrong. But anyway, so the other night, I actually had the pleasure of performing at an event at a little like arts and visuals event hosted by the Midnight Panthers, some friends that I have that have this wonderful community, and they got people together, differing artists. Some people gave lectures, some people performed original work, some people performed covers, some people performed poetry. And yeah, it was really cool. So I performed my poetry and it was so fun to share that part of myself. It's not a part of myself that I am all the time. Whoa, how did this get messed up? There we go. Sorry. If you don't have the visual component, an art piece that is next to me on this little easel was tilted. I wonder if the cats were having a row in here. Wonder what was going on. Anyway, sorry. So I got to show a part of myself that is, to me, feels electrifying. And it was so fun to share that with other people. And I love how that is a part of me. But if you know me, I am deeply introverted. My social battery runs low very easily, and I really enjoy my alone time. So it might be antithetical to be a performer, but I understand that I have parts of me that do like to be out in the public sphere. And I also have to honor the parts of me that don't like to be in the public sphere and want to be at home and kind of reclused and just in my own safe little bubble, you know? So different parts of yourself are like how you show up in different spaces, but it's all a part of you. And making space for those parts of you means that, like I said in that journal entry, it reduces opposition and it reduces, because, okay, when you are in opposition to a part of yourself, right, it creates like a kind of relationship with like that opposition, that bridge to the bubble. So let's go back to the bubble where you have like the main bubble in the center and it's you, it's self. And then there's like that line that connects you to like trauma, right? Like there is some kind of trauma that you experienced. Let's say you were in a car crash and you were hit by a drunk driver. It wasn't your fault. And it's created like a trauma. Like there's a part of you that's afraid to get back in the car and it's afraid to be behind the wheel. So rather than facing the fear, you kind of like suppress it and it like goes into like a shadowy area. And it's like that line that connects you to that part of the bubble map is like, it's like fractured. It's like all like staticky rather than like a smooth line. And I think that we do that as a protective mechanism. So we say, this is not serving me in the way that I have to survive in my day-to-day life. So I'm just going to put it to the side. And it's like a mental protective mechanism, which is so smart that we do that. It's so smart of our brains, but it also is counterintuitive to being authentic and radically accepting of who you are. I think that not denying it means more ease in your life. Like the more that you know yourself, I feel like the more that you know the world and the more that you can know other people, because we're all so connected and we always think that what we're dealing with is existing in its own vacuum and like there can't possibly another person that has this level of like niche worry and behavior. And then we find out like, oh yeah, it turns out everyone has their own niche worries and behaviors. And like I said, when we suppress them, they come out in all of these different ways as what feels like fear or aggression. And that's why it matters to listen to these things. Even if it feels like that part of yourself has nothing to offer, it's offering clarity into who you really are. And that's invaluable always, because clarity of who you really are means you can clearly understand other people better. And understanding other people better creates a kind of more accepting world. I also think that the more that you're able to honor your dips, the more you're able to bask in your expansiveness. So as far down as you go is as high as you can go. Like the opposite exists. And I think that if you're avoidant of the hard things, then you're not really getting the chance to experience the joy and the necessary contrast created by the really wonderful things. And I think that that is why it's so important to be true to all parts of ourselves, even the parts that we want to heal. Like I have parts of myself that I'm like, that's not me. Like that doesn't feel like me. Like the part of myself that hates and the part of myself that gets so angry and so hurt and upset and indignant and almost feels like a child part of myself. But it's like, excavate that a little bit. Why does that child part of yourself exist? Why does that anger come up? Why is that in there? And I think people ignore that because it's scary and it's heavy and it's hard work and it's not work that's done in one sitting and it's not work that's done at one time. We think that if we work through something, then there we go, it's done, we've done it, and we move on. And healing is so cyclical. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Healing reminds me of a spiral where you have, once again, self in the center and you start to spiral out. And let's say as we start to spiral out, there's this hurt, this trauma that exists. It's like a blimp in the spiral. And then you go around again and then once again, it comes back to it. But every time it spirals out, it continues to grow around it until the hurt no longer exists. But for a couple of times, you do have to interact with it to move beyond it. And I think it's all relative depending on what has happened in your life. It can be something that you can move around a couple times, and sometimes things take decades. But the fact that you're dedicated means so much. I saw this post the other day that was saying if you're worried if you love yourself, then you do. Because the fact that that's even on your mind means that you do. And I've taken that thought process into so many other spaces. If I'm worried about this part of myself, if I'm worried, like, what does this part of myself mean? Oh my goodness, I don't like this part of myself. I don't want to be this part of myself. Why is she here? Why is this happening? And the fact that I'm even worried about that, the fact that I'm even considering that means that I don't identify with that part of myself as myself. It's just a part of myself. And it's a part of myself that is here to tell me something and that I'm here to learn from. And the more more that we can do that, the more we can feel it and let it go. That is the most powerful thing that we can do. Such a powerful act of reclamation. That is your power. So, like, let's say you don't get something that you want and you're so upset about that. Your power is that you get to feel that. Your power is not changing something out of your control. It's being true to yourself and recognizing that that is where the control lives. And I know that feels like kind of defeating at first because we want to be able to change things that we can't control. But once you understand that that's never going to happen, the real power is in your response to it. My granddad always used to say that to my mom too, that you can't control other people, but you can control how you respond. And I think that's so freeing. I think it goes into the theory of all different parts of yourself. You have so many different parts. Like, you could be in a situation where like one part of you is like activated and angry and hurt. And I had something like that so recently where I was in a space where something was happening that was activating a lot of feelings inside of me. And I know that a part of me wants to be able to exist in this space without these feelings coming up. But I also know that right now that's impossible because it's so raw and it's so in my face. And I kind of just had to, in that moment, be like, okay, Rebecca, well, you're also experiencing this. Like, you're happy and you're enjoying and you're basking in this experience. But there are also parts that hurt and are bringing up things that cause you pain. And both of those parts can be true and exist at the same time. All parts of us deserve to be heard. They just don't always deserve to lead. So with that, I want to leave you there. Thank you so much for chatting with me. Thank you for being with me. Message me on Instagram. I love to chat with you guys. Message me wherever. And like I said, you know, if anything is ever going on in the pod that you're like, I don't jive with that, lovingly and compassionately state your claim. But like, there is no need to ever take it in a aggressive manner. And yeah, so with that being said, I hope that we can all move forward this week and today, recognizing the different parts of ourselves that show up and how antithetical and bizarre it feels to be in a space where you are mainly one thing, but there's this other voice and part like peeking its head in the back. Those parts exist together. And how do you honor them? And how do you respect that these exist? And you do that by being present with them, by sometimes verbalizing. I'm a verbal processor. So for me, that's putting my hand on my heart and saying, oh, wow, I'm feeling XYZ right now. That's existing as part of my experience. I'm not entirely enraptured by that, but there is some of this opposition coming up. And I recognize that that's happening. Already with that, you are claimed so much of your power. And yeah, I think that's a useful way to move forward. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I truly hope that you are taking care of yourself in this time of learning about so much happening in the world, but also being true to you and to your joy and to your community. Next week, I am going to have a dear friend on where we talk about mentally taking care of yourself while the world is in chaos. And I feel like I've done an episode like that in the past, but I think I need another one because it's been a rough ride. So, all right. I love you. Have a really good day. You are loved. You are valuable. You are meaningful. And the stars are just itching to align to conspire for your highest evolution. I'm sure of it. Have a good one. Bye.
Mają otwarte?